Welcome to AFROPULSE Stories, where modern African tales come alive. Don't just watch, be part of the journey. Hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Now lean in, today's story begins. The sun streamed softly through the cream-colored curtains, bathing the small but elegant apartment in golden warmth. The faint aroma of fried plantain drifted from the kitchen, mingling with the laughter of a woman humming her favorite tune. On the balcony, where flower pots lined the railing with bougainvillea in bloom, a man in a simple white t-shirt leaned back in his chair, eyes closed, savoring the peace of another Sunday morning. Chike's phone buzzed on the table beside him, but he ignored it. He had learned, after 2 years of marriage, that mornings like these were sacred. No business deal, no client meeting, no buzzing notification could be more important than watching his wife move around their little kitchen with effortless grace. "Chike, are you pretending to be asleep again?" Her voice rang out, lilting, playful. He grinned before opening his eyes. "If pretending gives me the privilege of hearing my angel call me, then yes, I'll pretend forever." Amara appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a checkered kitchen towel. Her eyes sparkled the way they had the very first time he saw her at a friend's wedding, brown, soft, yet sharp enough to hold him captive. She shook her head at him, feigning annoyance. "Flattery won't get you breakfast, my dear husband," she teased, though the smile tugging at her lips betrayed her delight. Chike rose and crossed the room, slipping his arms around her waist. "Who said anything about breakfast? I only wanted a taste of my sweet Amara." He kissed her lightly on the forehead, and she laughed, pushing him away before the eggs on the pan burned. Their love was easy like that, gentle teasing, soft touches, and small rituals that had blossomed since the day they exchanged vows. Every morning, Chike would linger on the balcony while Amara cooked. Every evening, Amara would wait at the door, no matter how late, to welcome him home with a smile and a hug. These little things had become the bricks that built their happiness. It had been 2 years since their wedding, and in all that time, not a day passed without laughter in their home. Neighbors often whispered in admiration, saying, "Those two are like newlyweds every day." Even in the market, when Amara walked through with her headscarf tied neatly and her smile as bright as sunlight, women would nudge each other and remark how blessed she was with such a loving husband. And she was blessed, indeed. Chike was hardworking, gentle, and quick to forgive. Amara, in turn, was tender, prayerful, and patient. Together, they were the kind of couple that inspired others. Young lovers holding hands in church, exchanging knowing glances that spoke of a love deeper than words. But beneath the laughter and shared glances lay a quiet ache, one that both tried to hide even from themselves. The ache of an empty cradle. 2 years of marriage and still no child. At first, it had seemed like nothing. Amara had brushed aside her mother's curious questions, saying with a smile, "We're not in a hurry." Chike had laughed off the gentle prodding of his friends, joking that he wanted to enjoy his wife fully before sharing her with a child. But as months slipped into years, the silence of childlessness began to echo louder. Amara felt it most when she held her friend's newborn, inhaling the powdery scent of baby skin, her arms longing for a weight that was not hers to carry. She felt it when her cycle came again, every month a silent reminder of dreams deferred. And Chike, though he never admitted it, felt it too. He felt it in the questioning looks of his uncles during family gatherings, in the way conversations would pause when he and Amara walked in, only to pick up again with hushed tones. Still, they refused to let it break them. Not yet. That Sunday morning, as they sat together at the small dining table, sharing fried plantain and eggs, Chike reached across and squeezed Amara's hand. "You know what tomorrow is?" he asked. She tilted her head. "Monday." "What about it?" He chuckled. "Not just Monday. Our wedding anniversary." Amara gasped, dropping her fork. "Oh my goodness, Chike. I nearly forgot." Chike's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Which means I win." "Win what?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "The silent contest we've been playing. Who would remember first?" Amara laughed until tears welled in her eyes. She shook her head at him, her heart swelling with the familiar joy of being loved so completely. "Fine," she said, "you win. But I'll make it up to you tomorrow." Chike leaned back in his chair, pretending to ponder. A promise for my beautiful wife. That's worth more than 1,000 gifts. Their laughter filled the room again, bouncing off the walls, filling every corner of their little paradise. Later that evening, as the sun set in streaks of orange and purple, Amara sat by the window, a notebook open on her lap. She had written down prayers, as she often did, filling pages with whispered hopes. Her neat handwriting spilled across the paper. Lord, thank you for blessing me with Chike. Thank you for our love. But Father, our hearts long for a child. Please remember us, Lord. Even if it tarries, may our faith never waver. She closed the notebook quickly when she heard Chike's footsteps, tucking it beneath the cushion. He walked over, placed a warm hand on her shoulder, and kissed her hair. Tomorrow, he said softly, let's not think about anything else. No work, no worries. Just us. She looked up at him, smiling through the heaviness she carried silently. Just us, she echoed. And so, as the night fell and the city outside quieted, Chike and Amara lay side by side, their fingers entwined. 2 years of marriage, 2 years of laughter, 2 years of waiting. Their love was still strong, their faith still alive. But beneath the laughter, beneath the prayers, and beneath the dreams of tomorrow, a crack was forming, subtle, invisible, yet dangerous. A crack that, in time, would test everything they thought unbreakable. The sound of laughter filled the compound, carrying with it the sweet scent of roasted corn from a neighbor's stall. It was a warm Saturday afternoon, and children ran barefoot across the yard, their giggles echoing like music. Amara stood by the window, watching them play. Their tiny feet kicked up dust as they chased each other, arms flailing in pure joy. Her hand unconsciously drifted to her belly, flat, silent, waiting. She forced herself to smile as one little girl tripped and another quickly helped her up, but her eyes blurred with tears she refused to let fall. It had been 2 years, and still, her arms remained empty. Behind her, in the nursery they had prepared shortly after their wedding, a wooden cradle stood in the corner. Its soft blue sheets were still neatly tucked in, untouched, waiting. A mobile of tiny stars and moons dangled above it, still spinning faintly whenever the window breeze passed through. Amara had insisted on preparing the nursery early, back when hope was still effortless, back when she believed children came like rain after planting seeds. She had folded baby clothes, tiny onesies, socks the size of her thumb, arranging them neatly in drawers. For 2 years, those drawers had remained closed. The knock on the door startled her from her thoughts. Amara, my daughter, are you home? The familiar voice of her mother-in-law drifted in. Amara wiped quickly at her face, steadying her voice. Yes, Mama, I'm coming. When she opened the door, Mama Chike stepped in with the commanding presence of an elder who never needed to be invited. She carried a woven basket filled with garden produce, yams, peppers, and bitter leaf wrapped in fresh banana leaves. My daughter, Mama said warmly, embracing her. I brought you some things from the farm. You must cook well for my son. He has lost weight. Amara chuckled politely, taking the basket. Thank you, Mama. I will. They sat together in the living room, sipping palm wine Mama had insisted on bringing along. For a while, the conversation was light. Stories of the village, news about distant relatives. But soon, as Amara feared, Mama's tone shifted. Amara, she began, her eyes narrowing slightly. It is almost 3 years since you and Chike married. When will I carry my grandchild? Amara's heart clenched. She forced a smile, though her throat was dry. Mama, God's time is the best time. We are praying. Mama sighed heavily, the kind of sigh that carried more weight than words. Prayer is good, my daughter. But you must also act. Have you seen a doctor? Have you tried the herbs? Back in the village, there are women who know how to open the womb. Amara looked down, her fingers twisting the edge of her wrapper. We have seen doctors, Mama. They say nothing is wrong. Everything is fine. Nothing is wrong, yet no child. Mama muttered, shaking her head. Sometimes these doctors do not know. A woman must seek other ways. She leaned forward, her voice lowering. You are sure it is not you? Amara's eyes stung, but she kept her composure. Mama, please. Chike and I are trusting God. That is enough for now. Mama leaned back, clearly unconvinced. I only want what is best for my son. Do not let people say it is his wife who cannot bear fruit. The words pierced deep, though Mama spoke them casually, without malice. Amara forced another smile, but inside her heart cracked a little more. When Mama finally left, Amara closed the door softly behind her and leaned against it, the tears she had held back spilling freely. She cried until her chest ached, muffling her sobs so the neighbors wouldn't hear. Later that evening, Chike returned from work to find her sitting in the dark. He dropped his bag, alarm flashing in his eyes. Amara, what is it? She shook her head, wiping her face quickly. Nothing. I'm fine. He knelt before her, lifting her chin. Don't lie to me. Tell me. And she broke. The words tumbled out, Mama's visit, the questions, the insinuations. By the time she finished, her voice was shaking. Chike, what if she is right? What if it is me? What if? Stop. His voice was firm, steady. Don't ever say that again. It is not you. It is not me. It is simply not yet time. He took her hands in his. We've done the tests. The doctors said we are both fine. Must we now doubt God? Must we now turn on each other? She nodded weakly, comforted yet still broken inside. Chike kissed her forehead. Amara, listen to me. Child or no child, you are my wife. My paradise. Nothing will change that. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to cling to those words and let them fill the hollow ache in her chest. And for that moment she did. But that night, as she lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing, her mind drifted back to the cradle in the nursery. She imagined it rocking gently, a tiny hand reaching up, a baby's cry filling the room. The silence was deafening, and though she pressed her face into the pillow to muffle her tears, she could not silence the thought gnawing at her soul. What if the cradle never fills? What if paradise remains childless forever? The church hall was a riot of color that Sunday morning. Gelly tied like crowns, agbada rippling in proud waves, and babies wrapped in white lace for dedication. The choir's voices rose like palms in harmattan wind, their harmonies smooth and insistent. He has done for me what no man can do. Amara smiled until her cheeks ached. She smiled as she helped tuck a loose ribbon on baby Aoife's bonnet, smiled as the mother pressed a grateful kiss to her temple, smiled as the pastor lifted the child and the congregation clapped in benediction. When the applause faded and the mother's eyes flitted to Amara's midsection, quickly, apologetically, Amara's smile did not crack. It held. She had learned to make it hold. After service, the courtyard spilled into sunlight and conversation. Women fanned themselves, men talked business, children darted between legs like fish in a clear stream. Chike stood with the men by the hibiscus hedge, laughing at something his friend Nonso said. He was magnetic when he laughed. It made people lean in. Amara cherished that sound. Auntie Amara, a small boy yelled, crashing into her knees. Carry me. She obliged, lifting him high until he squealed. His joy was contagious. But the muscles in her arms trembled by the third toss, and she set him down gently, flexing her fingers. Arms built for carrying what is not mine, she thought, and cauterized the thought with another brilliant smile. 8 a.m. A voice cooed behind her. Auntie Obianuju, her father's older sister, resident of every family's business, materialized with a fragrance of talcum and gossip. You are glowing. Marriage suits you. Good afternoon, Auntie, Amara said, bending slightly in greeting. Afternoon, my dear. Auntie's eyes crinkled, then hardened with faux sympathy. God's time is perfect, HM? We must be patient. But you know men, their patience is paper thin. Has your husband's family spoken? Their people are, how do I put it direct? Amara kept her face smooth. We are fine, Auntie. Auntie clicked her tongue. Fine? Fine and no baby? HM. There is a woman in our village. She makes herbs from flower roots. 3 months, and the womb will open like market on Monday. I used it for Chisholm's wife, see twins. She leaned closer. Don't delay. Men are like goats. If the rope is loose, they stray. Thank you, Auntie, Amara said softly, folding the suggestion into a small, burning ball she tucked under her ribs. From a hedge, Chike noticed the way Amara's shoulders tightened. He excused himself, crossing the courtyard in 3 long strides. Auntie, good afternoon, he said with practiced cheer. You are troubling my wife again. Troubling who? Auntie laughed, slapping his arm. I'm blessing your home with wisdom. Keep your wisdom, Chike said lightly, then took Amara's hand. Let's go, love. In the car, Legos pressed in, Okadas weaving, hawkers slapping gum against the glass, the sun branding the dashboard. Chike reached for Amara's fingers, playing with her ring. Want to talk about it? She stared out the window. It's fine. He hated that word now. Fine. Too tidy to hold truth. Let's go to your mother's this evening, he said. Eat properly. Laugh with people who have sense. They didn't make it to her mother's. By mid-afternoon, Mama Chike called. Chike, my son. Her voice crackled, all sugar, no heat. Come to the house. Bring your wife. Your uncles are here. We will eat. We will talk. They both knew what talk meant. The old house still smelled of pawpaw leaves and Palm Sunday. Photographs of ancestors lined the corridor. Stern men, soft-eyed women. In the sitting room, Uncles Emeka and Damien sat like judges, caps small and bright, while Mama directed a small army of aunties setting bowls on the table. Bitterleaf soup steamed, drawing out almonds of hunger even through dread. My children, Uncle Emeka began after grace. Marriage is a farm. If you don't weed quickly, bush will take over. We have waited for grandchildren. We've kept quiet. But quietness can rot a yam. Amara's spoon paused midair. Chike dropped his eyes, jaw hard. Uncle, he said evenly, God's time is perfect. Uncle Damien cut in. We know. But God also gave men sense. Have you done tests? He didn't wait for the answer. We must be practical. A man without a child is like a king without a crown. Mama's eyes flicked from son to daughter-in-law. We have a name in this family. Chike's voice lowered. Our marriage is not your meeting agenda. Silence stiffened the room. An auntie coughed into a wrapper. Amara felt suddenly very small, very visible. Uncle Emeka softened his tone. We want to help. There is a traditional clinic. We have doctors, Amara said, surprising herself. Her voice was cool clipped. They found nothing wrong with either of us. Uncle Damien raised his brows. So, the fault is spiritual? Then go and fast. Don't waste time smiling in church. Fast like your life depends on it. Women these days, too soft. Chike stood, chair scraping. Enough. Mama rose too, palms up. Chike, sit. You will not raise your voice here. He didn't sit. He took Amara's hand, steady and sure. Thank you for the food, he said politely. We will be going. Outside, the sky was purpling, first stars winking awake. In the car, neither spoke. At a red light, Chike turned to her. We can stop visiting for a while, he said. Protect the peace we have. Amara's mouth trembled. They will say I turned you away from your family. They already say worse. He reached for her face. Let them choke on their words. Her laugh was watery, helpless. She let herself be held while Okadas screamed around them like angry birds. That night, Amara dreamed the cradle. She was rocking it in a room filled with voices, Auntie's whispers, Uncle's proverbs, Mama sighs. The mobile turned slowly, stars blinking. She leaned in to see the baby's face, but when the blanket unfurled, the cradle was full of voices, nothing more. Sound and no flesh, noise and no name. She woke before dawn, lungs tight, and went to the balcony. Lagos at 4 a.m. is a soft animal. She pressed her palms to the cool rail and breathed until her chest unlocked. Behind her, Chike's arms slipped around her waist, his chin on her shoulder. We will build a fence, he murmured, around our paradise. We will let in only who we choose. She nodded, tears bright. Family was a river you could not dam. But maybe you could learn to swim with your head above water. They chose Wednesday as their day of fasting. By dawn, the kitchen was quiet, mugs turned upside down on the rack like sleeping beetles. Amara wrote a verse on a post-it and stuck it to the fridge. Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. Chike grinned when he saw it, kissed her temple, and powered through work with the ferocity of a man bargaining with heaven. At noon, they met at the church office, a modest compound tucked behind a mechanic's yard. The senior pastor, a man with kind eyes and a gentle stomach, welcomed them without theatrics. "Sit," he said. "Talk to me like I am your uncle who will not report you." Chike started. "We are fine," he stopped, chuckled. "We are not fine. It's been 2 years. Doctors say nothing is wrong. Family talks. We are trying not to drown." Pastor nodded, steepling his fingers. "Faith does not deny reality. It introduces a higher one. We will pray, but I will also ask you to see a specialist in Abuja." He turned to Amara. "And you will guard your heart. No comparing journeys. No measuring wombs with a neighbor's tape." Amara found herself laughing, a small patch of sunlight inside her. "Yes, sir." They prayed without frenzy, 3 pairs of hands clasped, words simple and steady. "Remember this home. Strengthen their love. Silence every voice that is not yours." When they rose, Pastor handed them a card. "Obstetrician. Highly recommended. Expensive. Worth it. Check your health. Then leave your case on the altar and go home to laugh." They did both. The following week, they saved the fee, booked the flight, and told no one. The trip was strangely romantic. 2 people seated side by side, sharing groundnuts and half-formed hopes, Legos shrinking into a quilt of blue and tin below them. In Abuja, the hospital smelled like lemon floor cleaner and good intentions. Blood tests, scans, more questions. The verdict matched Lagos. Unexplained infertility. Nothing wrong. Nothing to fix. Wait. On the return flight, Amara pressed her forehead to the window. "Unexplained," she muttered. Such a useless word. Chike laced their fingers. "It means we are not broken. It means this delay is not who we are." They returned to Lagos lighter and heavier at once. Lighter with relief that they weren't sick. Heavier with the weight of waiting. They decided to give the next 3 months to prayer and joy. They made rules. No midnight Googling. No counting cycles out loud. No peeking into the nursery. They kept them as best they could. Their home became a small chapel. Praise music on Saturday mornings while they cleaned. Evening walks where they listed 3 things they were grateful for, even on bad days. The neighbor's hibiscus, a funny meme. The way Chike's hand swallowed Amara's. On Sundays, they served in church again. Amara with the children's choir, Chike helping the media team. Joy, they discovered, required muscle. It grew with use. One Friday, as the sun softened over Yaba, their neighbor's child, Kosi, began to choke on a marble. His mother screamed. The compound erupted. Chike rushed over, wrapped his arms around Kosi from behind, and jerked up and in. The marble shot out, pinged across the cement. The courtyard exploded into hallelujahs, tears, blessings. Kosi's mother flung herself at Amara, weeping into her wrapper. "God will do it for you," she sobbed. "As you save my child, God will give you your own." That night, under a drone of generator and distant music, Amara cried. This time with relief. Chike held her and whispered into her hair, "See? We are useful. Our lives are not on pause." They laughed again, too. They had dinner dates in their own living room. Candles, suya from the junction, cold zobo in tall glasses. They danced stupid dances to old P-Square songs, tripping over each other, breathless with mirth. In those moments, the nursery's silence felt less like a verdict and more like a room waiting for a new kind of music. Yet faith has shadows. Some nights, prayers felt like stones in the mouth, dry, heavy. There were mornings when Amara opened her journal and wrote only the date, too tired for words. There were days Chike drove the length of 3rd Mainland Bridge in traffic and came home brittle, avoiding the nursery's door like a superstition. They didn't pretend those days away. They named them, sat with them, and let them pass. At the end of 3 months, Pastor called. "How are we doing, my children?" "Stronger," Chike said. "Tired," Amara added. "Both are true," Pastor said. "Good. Faith is a long road. Now, practical counsel. Start a new hobby together. something that builds you. They chose gardening on the balcony, filling sacks with soil, pressing seeds into earth with tender thumbs. Each morning, Amara watered, and each evening they looked for green. The first sprout stirred something in them they couldn't quite name, a small, insistent hope rising through dirt. The pressure from family never fully disappeared, only receded like a tide. Auntie sent herbs. They went unboiled. Mama sent verses. Those Amara kept. Uncles sent silence, which was its own kind of peace. On the last Wednesday of that season of focus prayer, they broke their fast with sweet potatoes and laughter. Chike tapped his fork to his plate like a glass in a wedding hall. To us, he said, for choosing joy. Amara clinked. To us, she echoed, for choosing each other. The fan whirred, the balcony plants nodded in the evening air. For the first time in a long time, Amara slept without dreaming of the cradle. Rain arrived like an argument, sudden, loud, refusing to be ignored. It hammered the roof sheets, bullied the gutter into spitting, smeared the city into watercolor. Nipa took light. The generator coughed to life, and Amara sat at the dining table with an open laptop and an email that made her heart lurch. Appointment confirmed. Dr. Adioi, Advanced Fertility Clinic, Abuja. Initial consultation fee due, 450,000 Nigerian nairas. Kindly remit within 72 hours to secure your slot. Her breath snagged. It was the specialist pastor had mentioned, a private referral. Months of waiting condensed into one chance. She checked their savings balance on her phone. Her stomach dropped. The number didn't match the last figure she'd memorized. Almost 200,000 naira gone. Her mind skittered through possibilities, landed on one. School fees? Rent? No, those were paid. She scrolled transactions. A transfer to Nonso last week. Cousin Nonso. No note. The front door opened. Chike shook rain from his shoulders, grinning at the storm as if it were an old friend. Lagos will soon float into the Atlantic, he joked, kicking off his shoes. He kissed her cheek, then noticed her face. What happened? She turned the screen to him. Appointment confirmed. We need to pay in 72 hours. Her voice tried to be steady. The money isn't there. He glanced from laptop to phone. Yes. I sent Nonso some cash last week. His shop almost closed. He's repaying next month. The room tilted. You used our clinic money? The word "our" felt fragile in her mouth. His brows knit. It's our family money, Amarachi. I had to help him. He's on the edge. On the edge. Her voice rose before she could catch it. We have been on the edge for 2 years. He flinched. I didn't know about the appointment, he said, quieter. You didn't tell me. I was going to, she said, heat licking her throat. I wanted to surprise you with the date, to bring good news instead of another prayer point. Anger pushed tears to the rim of her eyes. And you didn't think to ask before moving that much money? Don't turn this into. Into what? The dam in her snapped. Into me begging for partnership in my own marriage? Into me always being the one who must wait, on God, on doctors, on your family, on your decisions? The generator coughed again, sputtered, steadied. Rain battered the windows with drumstick fury. Chike set his jaw. Nonso is my blood. He would do the same for me. And what am I? She whispered. A tenant in this house? A tenant in your heart. He exhaled, frustration sparking. You're being unfair. Unfair is losing our chance because your cousin forgot to plan his business. Do not insult him, Chike said, voice sharp. He's trying. And I'm not. Silence fell, thick and electric. In it, a dozen unspoken things clawed at the air. His weariness of being measured by babies he couldn't conjure. Her exhaustion of carrying hope like a sack of wet clothes. He rubbed his face. I'll find the money, he said finally, softer. I'll call a client. Sell the old generator. Something. 72 hours, she reminded, arms folded tight around herself. He nodded and reached for her hand. She hesitated a beat too long before letting him take it. That night, they lay back to back, the old bed frame humming with the storm's distant growl. Amara didn't sleep. She watched shadows crawl the ceiling and replayed the argument like a bad film. Her own barbed phrases, his angry eyes, that awful moment when love felt like a table with wobbling legs. She hated the version of herself that anger sculpted. Sharp, suspicious, less gentle than the woman she prayed to be. By morning, the rain weakened into a sulk. Chike kissed her hair and left early, phone already at his ear. By noon, he called. "I have 2/3, he said. Client paid an old invoice. "I'm still trying." "Okay," she said, heartbeat measuring out the remaining third like a metronome. At 5, she checked the balance. Short. At 7, the clinic sent a reminder. At 8, she stood in the nursery without knowing how she got there, fingers tightening around the edge of the cradle. The mobile stars and moons turned lazily in a draft. The quiet pressed down. Her phone buzzed. A transfer alert. Full amount reference. For our tomorrow, see. Another alert pinged. A smaller credit-tagged refund from Nonso. He had found a way to send something back, even if not all. Amara's knees loosened. She sank into the nursing chair, the wood cool under her palm. Relief washed through her, followed closely by a pinch of shame for doubting Chike's urgency. She dialed him. He picked on the first ring. "Paid," he said before she could speak, breathless, triumphant, exhausted. "Appointment secured." Her throat tightened. "Thank you." Silence, not heavy this time, just full. Finally he asked cautiously, "Are we okay?" She looked at the cradle. "We are learning," she wanted to say. "We are clumsy at this dance, stepping on toes and saying sorry." Instead, she said, "We will be." "Good," he murmured, "because I'm buying Suya. And I'm not apologizing for that decision." She laughed, the sound breaking like sunlight through cloud. By 2. When he came home, they ate standing at the kitchen counter, sharing meat and stories of the day, how his client had haggled like a market woman, then paid in full, how Nonso sold his spare generator to send a piece back, how the clinic receptionist had said, "Congratulations on taking a step." They didn't argue, but neither did they pretend the argument hadn't happened. They named it and promised to do better. More talking, fewer surprises, joint decisions about money and medicine. Later, in bed, Chike reached for her hand. She intertwined their fingers. The storm had blown through, leaving leaves plastered to the streets, and a city that smelled like rain and second chances. Outside, somewhere in the compound, a baby cried and was comforted. Inside, between them, something fragile and necessary reknit. They would fight again, of course they would. But tonight, they learned the shape of a crack and how to press it closed with gentleness. Tonight, they learned that love is not a paradise without storms. It is a roof you keep repairing together, even when the rain comes hard and without warning. The argument began with a missing shirt. Chike had been searching his wardrobe for a crisp white one he wore only on important client days. He pulled hangers back and forth, irritation sharpening his movements. "Amara, where is my shirt?" "The good one. The one I wore to Mr. Okoye's event." Amara, ironing in the next room, sighed. "Check the laundry basket. I washed it yesterday." "It's not there," he snapped. "Then check the line. It should still be drying." Chike stomped to the balcony, returned with the damp shirt in his hand. "Why didn't you bring it in? You know I needed this today." Her jaw tightened. "Chike, I'm not a machine. I can't think for you every second." Something in him cracked. Weeks of pressure, family comments, bills, unanswered prayers. It all funneled into his words. If you can't even handle laundry, how do you expect to handle a child? The silence that followed was worse than shouting. Amara's hand froze on the iron, the hiss of steam the only sound between them. She turned slowly, eyes wide with hurt. "Say that again," she whispered. Chike realized instantly what he had said, but pride caged his apology. "I didn't mean it like that." "No, you did." Her voice trembled. "You think I am the problem. You think I am the reason." "I said I didn't mean it," he interrupted, but the damage was done. Amara dropped the iron, the clang ringing through the room. "All these months I have carried this weight, prayed, smiled for your family. And now you use it against me? Because of a shirt." Chike stepped forward, desperate now. "Amara, please." It was frustration, not truth. But she pulled away from his touch, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Words reveal what's in the heart, Chike. and your words cut deeper than any gossip outside. That night, they lay in the same bed but miles apart. Chike stared at the ceiling, guilt gnawing his chest, while Amara faced the wall, shoulders stiff. Between them, silence screamed louder than any fight. By the following week, the compound hummed with whispers. Amara felt them first in the market. Women huddled by the pepper stalls lowered their voices when she approached. One bold woman clucked her tongue. "Fine woman, no Pekin. Now-oh." She walked faster, her basket heavy, shame heavier. At church, the whispers followed. During a women's meeting, one sister said, loud enough for all, "Sometimes it's not just prayer. Maybe our sister should humble herself and try alternatives." The way eyes darted toward Amara made her stomach churn. Even children repeated what they heard at home. As Amara walked past the compound courtyard one evening, little Kosi asked bluntly, "Auntie, why don't you have a baby?" Mummy said maybe you can't. The words pierced. She forced a smile, patted his head, and hurried inside. Chike was furious when she told him, "Let them talk. Do they feed us? Do they know our journey?" But Amara's tears spilled anyway. "Chike, I can't fight everyone. I can't keep smiling while they slice me with whispers." He clenched his fists. "Then we withdraw. We don't owe them our peace." Easier said than done. In Nigeria, community was air. You breathed it whether you wanted to or not. They couldn't hide from neighbors, church members, relatives. The whispers seeped in like smoke, choking the edges of their paradise. One evening, Amara overheard two women outside their gate. "They say it's her womb. Or maybe the man is weak. Either way, that kind of marriage doesn't last long." Something inside her snapped. She wanted to fling open the gate, to scream, "We are more than our wombs. More than your gossip." But instead, she collapsed onto the couch, trembling. When Chike came home, she was still shaking. He held her, jaw tight, anger radiating. "Let them rot with their tongues," he murmured. But even as he spoke, Amara wondered how long love could survive when the world kept tearing at its edges. The next crack came quietly, like a leak before a flood. Amara decided, secretly, to see another doctor. She didn't tell Chike. Part of her wanted to surprise him with good news. Part of her feared hearing bad news in front of him. So she booked an appointment on a Wednesday afternoon, slipped out with a simple excuse. "I'm meeting Mama at the market." The hospital smelled of antiseptic and unanswered hopes. After another round of tests, the doctor leaned back in his chair. "Madam, as far as we see, you are healthy. No blockages, no abnormalities. Sometimes, conception simply takes time." She pressed. "But 2 years? Still nothing." He gave a practiced smile. "Patience, madam. Stress only worsens it. Go home, rest, and keep trying." By the time she got home, exhaustion weighed her down. She thought she had hidden it well, but Chike noticed her drawn face. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing," she said quickly. He studied her. "Amara, don't hide from me." The truth slipped out. "I want to see another doctor." Chike froze. "Without telling me?" I needed to know, Chike. I needed to hear it for myself." His face hardened. "So you think I don't care? You think I'm not carrying this weight too?" Her voice cracked. "Sometimes it feels like I carry it alone." The words stung him more than a slap. "Do you know what it's like to smile through your uncle's insults? To pretend their questions don't burn? Don't tell me I don't carry it." Tears blurred her vision. "Then why didn't you come with me? Why didn't you want to?" "Because you didn't ask." His voice rose, frustration spilling. "Because you decided alone, like I'm just your housemate, not your husband." They stood in the small living room, both shaking, both bleeding, invisible wounds. Finally, Chike whispered, "Do you not trust me anymore?" Amara's silence was answer enough. He turned away, fists clenched. "Then maybe the problem isn't the doctors or God's timing. Maybe the problem is us." The words lingered in the air, heavy, poisonous. Amara sank onto the couch, sobs racking her body. For the first time, it wasn't just the world pressing against their paradise. It was the two of them, pushing against each other, blaming, breaking. The clink of cutlery had a way of sounding loud when words were scarce. Amara set the pot of okra soup between them and folded into her chair. Chike ladled his portion, careful not to splash, his eyes on the steam as if the vapor carried answers. The generator droned outside, a steady, indifferent hum. Somewhere in the compound, a radio played high life too softly to be called music, more like a memory. "Salt is okay?" Amara asked, eyes still on her plate. "It's fine," Chike said. They ate like they were visiting strangers, polite, focused, grateful for the distraction chewing provides. When the silence stretched too taut, Amara reached for the rope of routine. The clinic sent a reminder. Tuesday, 9 a.m. They want us there an hour early. Chike nodded, swallowing. "I'll clear my morning. That means leaving by 6. "I know," he said, and then softer, "I want to be there." She risked a glance. He was already looking at her. Something old and tender flickered, then retreated behind caution. A burst of laughter shot up from a courtyard. The new baby, 3 doors down, had been named on Saturday. Drums, plastic chairs, coolers of jollof. The women had danced in bright wrappers, men clapping them on. Amara had watched through the curtain, smiling as if her face remembered all by itself. That smile had a price. Her cheeks still felt bruised by it. Chike set his spoon down. "We could visit," he said. "Take a gift." "We sent a gift," Amara said. "You dropped it. I meant be present." She pressed her napkin between thumb and forefinger. "I don't want to be a prop in anyone's gratitude speech." He nodded. "Okay." They tried the gratitude game, the one they had invented in gentler months. 3 things, Chike prompted, attempting a smile. "Say yours." Amara searched the table, like the blessings might be hiding behind the pepper. "The weather cooled," she offered. "Your call came through in time to fix the invoice issue." A pause. The soup didn't burn. He huffed. It could almost be called a laugh. "My turn. Your hair scarf today, green suits you. The balcony tomatoes have small flowers." The generator started at the first try. Tomatoes, hair, generator. Prayers shrunk to practicalities. It was something. It wasn't enough. After dinner, they moved through the house like lines on parallel pages. Amara washed plates she had already washed. Chike replied to emails in a tone no one could hear. The nursery door stayed closed, unspoken treaty. At 9, Nipa returned light with a theatrical flicker. The fan woke from its groan. Amara wiped her hands on a towel and stood at the hallway, gathering courage. "I'm sorry," she said, surprising both of them. "For what?" Chike asked, turning on the sofa. "For the way I've been talking. The suspicion. I know you're trying." He exhaled. "I'm sorry for the words about the shirt." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I keep replaying it. That's not who I want to be." They hovered at the edge of embrace, then didn't cross. Instead, she sat at the opposite end of the couch. They watched a sitcom too loud for their mood. Laughter canned inside the TV loosened nothing inside them. By midnight, sleep refused them. Amara journaled on the balcony, the page glowing in her phone's torchlight. She wrote the date, then a list. Travel snacks for Tuesday, spare charger, scarf, Psalm 27. Somewhere below, a cat knocked over a bucket and fled from its own noise. In the bedroom, Chike scrolled headlines he wouldn't remember. His thumb kept finding photos of happier days, them on Freedom Park grass, faces pressed close, worries a small province in a far country. In the morning, they tried again. He brewed tea, she sliced bread. "We'll get through Tuesday," she said. "Whatever they say." "We will," he answered. Together. It felt true for 3 seconds. Then the day rose up and pulled them into separate currents. At lunch, Chike ate in his car to avoid colleagues. The office had turned into a symposium of unsolicited advice. "My auntie's cousin's wife, triplets after bitter leaf water. Have you tried not trying?" Adoption ever thought. He was learning how many ways a man can be measured by what he cannot produce. Amara stayed late at church to arrange children's choir files, lingering because home felt like a mirror she wasn't ready to look into. When she finally returned, the soup on the stove had acquired the tired sweetness of leftovers. She tasted it and forced a smile anyway. At the table, the sound of cutlery returned for its performance. "It needs more salt," Amara said, reaching for the shaker. Don't worry, Chike said. It's fine. There it was again. Fine, the coin they kept passing back and forth as if it could pay any bill. She set the salt down and chewed and swallowed, and did not say that silence had a taste, metallic like a bitten lip. They went to bed facing one another, but lukewarm with restraint. Chike reached. She hesitated. The moment developed calluses and passed. At 3 a.m., Amara woke to the upstairs neighbor arguing with someone on the phone. The words filtered through concrete. You don't listen to me. I'm trying, always trying. The voices could have been their own, scrambled, played back with new actors. She pressed the heel of her hand to her sternum. Sometimes the ache wasn't sadness. It was a pressure, like weather before rain. Tuesday was approaching. In their hearts, both of them looked toward it, as if a date could save a marriage, as if an appointment could sew up a crack. Tomorrow they would set alarms. Tonight, they turned off lamps and lay quietly with hope in their mouths like a bitter pill. Temptation rarely arrives in red. It arrives as relief. At the office, a new client brief exploded like fireworks. Urgent, complex, impossible. The team formed pods, hours smeared. Kemi, the project manager, was efficient in a way that read as kindness. She anticipated questions, made coffee no one asked for, sent checklists with little jokes in the margins. She wore her braids in a bun and competence like a perfume. On Wednesday night, the rain returned with Lagos drama. The parking lot was a dark soup. Chike stood with his laptop bag zipped under his shirt. Kemi came up beside him, car keys up like a talisman. You're going to become a fish if you stand here, she said. I'm going past Yaba. Enter. He hesitated. I'll call a ride. In this flood. She unlocked the car. Please. Before we both develop gills. The car smelled faintly of citrus. Wipers beat a steady metronome. They spoke about the client until the conversation wandered off its leash and came back with other topics. Jollof superiority. Weird wedding MCs. The stubbornness of printers. Kemi laughed with her whole face. When they reached his junction, she touched his forearm lightly. A friendly punctuation. Take care of yourself, she said. Then, after a small pause that made the sentence heavier, you deserve peace. In a different year, the sentence would have meant nothing. In this one, it lodged somewhere tender. He nodded, throat thick with a gratitude that had nothing to do with desire. Good night. Inside, Amara sat on the couch with a pile of sheet music. We're trying a new song for the children, she said, tilting pages toward him. Deo says the bridge is too high for the little ones, but I think they'll manage. Deo, the new music director. He's good, she said, and then, perhaps hearing something in her own voice, added, professional. Chike kissed her forehead. You'll manage. You always do. The words were meant as praise. They sounded like a sentence. They ate suya in silence and watched the rain draw bars across the window. Later, Amara's phone buzzed. A message from a number saved as Deo. Choir, great work today. Your harmonies helped the children find theirs. Grateful for you. A few beats later, don't overwork. Rest is worship. She smiled into the light of the screen. It felt good to be noticed for what she could give, not what she lacked. She typed back, thank you. We move. She hesitated, deleted the emoji, sent only the words. On Friday, the compound shared a generator with 3 units, while the main was being repaired. The neighbor's cousin, Tosin, visiting from Abadan, fiddled shirtless with wires and voltage stabilizers the way some men flirt. He was noisy, easy with compliments. Auntie Amara, you look sweet inside this rain, he said, grinning at his own poetry. She rolled her eyes, neither angry nor pleased. Do you people not have filters? She asked, then returned inside and locked the door. Flattery was a dull knife. It annoyed before it cut. Temptation is not always a person. Sometimes it is the path of least resistance. How easy it is to stay late at work to avoid a hard conversation. How nice it is to receive a text that affirms something simple and good about you. How natural it feels to say, I'm tired, when what you mean is I'm afraid. Underneath, a fault line widened. This person sees me. This person needs me less. With this person, I am not a problem to be solved. On Sunday after service, Amara waited near the piano while the children practiced their motions. Deo collected sheets, arranging them in a neat stack. He was married with a baby boy who drooled on his collar and slept on his shoulder like a soft blessing. "You have a way with them," he told Amara, eyes kind. "They sing because you make singing feel safe." She flushed. "I just love them," she said. "Maybe too much." "No such thing," he replied. "Love can expand without tearing." Words like that were oxygen. She floated on them through the afternoon. At home, she thought about sharing the compliment with Chike, then didn't. It felt private, like a tiny garden she wasn't ready to open to visitors. That evening, the office group chat buzzed with memes. Someone posted a selfie of the work pod, everyone squeezed into the frame, tongues out, eyes red with the glare of overtime. Kemi leaned over the back of Chike's chair in the photo, hand on the chair's headrest, her cheek close to his. The caption read, "Clients may stress us, but we're still fine." The comments were an avalanche of laughter and hard eyes. Amara stared, phone gone heavy. She zoomed in until pixels declared their protest. It was innocent, she told herself. It could be innocent. Why? Then was her heart running. Chike showered, walked out rubbing his hair with a towel. "You saw the photo?" he asked. She didn't look up. "I saw it. It was stupid," he said, reading the air. "Just teen madness." Your arm was around her. He blinked. Around the chair. Around everyone. She swallowed. It looked like something. He sat opposite her, towel in his lap, lightning spidering through his chest in that quick, unfair way of defensiveness. "Looked," he repeated. "Amara, please. I am tired." "Me too," she said, voice small. He reached for her phone gently, set it face down on the table. "I'll tell them no more photos. If that helps." She nodded, eyes wet. It helped and did not help. You cannot ban a feeling with a rule. When night finally unspooled, Chike lay awake, Kemi's sentence repeating with the persistence of a chorus. "You deserve peace." He wasn't thinking of her face. He was thinking of being seen without pity, praised without caveats. A dangerous hunger, because it wore the costume of harmlessness. In the morning, he deleted the selfie from his phone. He did not delete the number saved as Kemi PM. You can uninstall an app and still remember your password. Amara, for her part, turned down Deo's offer to stay late and rework the bridge. She smiled, said she had an early morning. At home, she moved the photo frame of their wedding day from the hallway to the table and wiped its glass twice, though it was already clean. In the photo, their faces were younger by a century of softness. She traced their smiles with her thumb, then put the frame back on the wall like a declaration. Temptation had knocked softly. Neither had opened the door, but both had stood close enough to hear it breathing. Tuesday came with polite weather. Dawn didn't fight the sky. It slipped in gently. They left before traffic grew teeth, a thermos of tea between them. Small talk carefully arranged on the dashboard. At the clinic, white walls radiated order. Couples sat hunched over clipboards like students before an exam. Hope and terror twined in the air like a nervous braid. Tests. Briefings. Smiles practiced to not scare. "We'll review and call you," the nurse said, voice made of soft edges. They went home lighter in the way paperwork makes people lighter. Activity as proxy for progress. By evening, the house felt vacuumed of sound. Amara stirred stew, phone face up on the counter in case the clinic called. Chike, on the balcony, answered a work message. His phone vibrated in his hand. "Kemi, you did great in the client meeting today. Don't forget to exhale. You're more than your deliverables." Then, a second. "Driving past your junction. Want a lift tomorrow morning?" He typed, "Thanks. I'm fine." He deleted "I'm fine." Typed, "Appreciate it. I'll manage." Sent that. Then, remembered the photo, the look on Amara's face, and added, "Let's keep comms work only, please." The please made it sound less like a rule and more like a plea. Kemi sent back a thumbs up. He set the phone down on the table by the hallway and went to wash his hands. On the counter, Amara's phone buzzed. "Deo, choir, how did it go today? Praying peace over your home." If you need to talk, I can listen, strictly as brother. A minute later, another. I'm around the church office for an hour if you want to stop by. No pressure. She didn't answer. She sliced onions until they wept for her. When she carried plates to the table, Chike's phone vibrated again. She's not the type to look. Today, the sound tugged like a thread. The preview on the lock screen read, Kemi, if you ever need to clear your head, my street has a quiet suya spot. Zero gossip. Safe space. A harmless invitation on a dangerous background. Amara put the plates down too hard. Stew sloshed. Your phone is blinking, she said. I'll check it later, he replied, distracted by the smell of onions softening into sweetness. Maybe check it now, she said. He looked at her, then at the phone, then at her again, reading the line behind her words. He picked it up, thumb hovering. It's work. Is it? She hated how brittle the question sounded. Amara. What? You warned me about a church selfie. But your own private support line is work. I told her to keep it work only, he said, holding the phone out so she could see the last message. She read it. It did help. It also did not. Because there are words in a marriage that oxygenate, and words that rust. Safe space. Clear your head. Words she used to be for him. She set the phone down carefully, as if it were holding petrol. Do you talk to her about us? She asked. No, he said too fast. Then, not really. Just stress. Which stress? The color of the PowerPoint? Or the way your wife fails you? He blinked, hurt flashing. Don't what? She swallowed, the stew steam rising between them like a small fog. I saw the photo. I see the texts. And I don't know if I'm crazy, or if you prefer telling someone else what you won't tell me. And you. The edge in his voice surprised them both. Deo's messages, brother, praying peace. You think I can't read subtext? You smile at your phone like he carried sunshine on it. She almost laughed from shock. Deo is our music director. He texts about hymns. And about your heart, Chike said, quiet and sharp. They stared at each other across bowls of stew cooling into congealed compromise. The generator dipped and caught again. Outside, a baby cried, then hiccuped, then sighed back to sleep. I'm not cheating on you, Chike said finally. I know, Amara replied. And I'm not cheating on you. Then why does it feel like, he stopped, hands opening helplessly, like there are 3 extra people at our table? Because there were expectation, resentment, and relief not chosen wisely. They all reached for spoons. Chike scrubbed a hand over his face. I am drowning Amarachi. Not because of you. Because I am trying to hold a life together while everyone measures me by what I can't give them. And I am oxygen, she said, tears arriving without permission. Or I used to be. They stood at the lip of apology and did not jump. Pride built balustrades faster than hands could. It took one reckless sentence to kick them over. Her phone buzzed. Deo, remember, your worth is not tied to timelines. Proud of you for showing up. The word proud bloomed on the screen like a lovely weed. Chike saw it. Something in his face hardened with a sound she could almost hear. Proud, he asked, each letter brittle. Does he grade you now? Amara flinched. Don't reduce kindness to something dirty. Kindness is fine. This is something else. You would know, she shot back. You and your Kemi who offers peace like sachet water. It should have ended there, with rolled eyes and slammed doors and separate rooms. Instead, anger reached for the ugliest tools within reach. I regret marrying you, Chike said. The words leapt out of him and stood astonished in the air, as if even they couldn't believe themselves. Silence detonated. Amara's lips parted, soundless. She put a hand on the back of a chair to steady the ground. When her voice arrived, it was a thread. Take it back. He could have. He should have. He didn't. Shame had already crawled into his throat and sat on the apology. Her eyes sharpened from glassy to flint. You regret marrying me, she repeated, slower, tasting each syllable like poison. Then don't. Don't marry me, then. Live like a bachelor with your briefcases and your safe spaces. That's not what I. You said it, she cut in. You can't unsay it. Tears came hot and fast. Do you know what I gave up to stand in this house and wait with you? Do you know what it costs to wake up every day and still choose hope? And you regret the very person climbing this mountain beside you." He reached for her. She stepped away. Plates trembled. Her chair scraped. She picked up her phone, then put it down. Picked it up again. "I'm going to my mother's for the night," she said. "Amara, if I stay, I will say something worse. And I am not ready to hate us." She walked to the bedroom, pulled a small overnight bag, moved with the efficiency of someone evacuating before a flood. In the doorway, she paused back to him. "I don't want Deo," she said. "I want you. I have always wanted you. But I also want the version of you that doesn't use my wounds as weapons." The door closed with the gentlest click, somehow crueler than a slam. Chike sat down, then stood up, then sat again, because standing felt like too much responsibility. He put his face in his hands. The clock on the wall ticked. The stew on the table developed a skin. His phone buzzed. "Kemi, everything okay?" He turned it face down, as if the glass had become a mirror, and he couldn't risk seeing himself. He wanted to run after Amara. Kneel, say the words that would sew the night back together. He wanted to rewind 3 minutes, 3 months, 2 years. He did nothing. Shame is a sedative that looks like paralysis. Outside, the corridor light flickered. Somewhere, the new baby cried again and was comforted. In his chest, something small and good cried, too. No one comforted it. The crack in their paradise, once a hairline, had widened into a fault. Neither knew yet how far it ran beneath their feet, or what else it would swallow before morning. Amara arrived at her mother's flat with the smallest bag she owned and the heaviest heart she'd ever carried. Mama opened the door before Amara knocked twice, as if sorrow made a sound you could hear through wood. "My daughter," Mama said, gathering her in. "Come inside. Drop the bag. Drink water." Amara obeyed, because obedience was easier than speech. The living room smelled of camphor and old hymnals. A wall clock ticked like a patient teacher. When Mama set a glass before her, Amara drank greedily, then set it down with a small clatter that startled both of them. Mama didn't rush the story out of her. She sat and waited the way elders do, full of time. When the words finally came, they tumbled. The texts, the photo, the sentence that detonated. "I regret marrying you." Mama's face did not twist. She listened until the room was quiet again. "Words carry spirits," Mama said at last. "Good words invite light. Bad words invite shadows. But even bad words can be chased out if you open the window and call morning." She took Amara's hands. "He is a good man. He spoke from a dark corner. You, too, have spoken from corners. We will bring both of you into light." Amara nodded, tears slipping without drama. "He hurt me, Mama." "I know," Mama said. "And he will apologize, not with mouth alone." The phone on the table vibrated. Chioma, Amara's university friend, had sent 10 messages already and was not done. "Babes, come to my place. I'll cook stew. Men will stress you into ulcer." Then, if a man can say he regrets marrying you, he has finished the course. Press eject. The last one flashed. No woman should beg to be chosen. Mama's eyes glanced at the screen before Amara could flip it. "Chioma is quick to build fire," she said mildly. "Fire cooks food. It also burns houses. Choose what you want with it." Amara managed a small, rueful smile. "Ngozi says the opposite. Fight for your home," she keeps texting. "Then keep both friends," Mama said. "One will remind you you're precious. The other will remind you marriage is a covenant. Wisdom sits between them." Across the city, Chike stood at his own doorway and stared at the thin sliver of light under it for a full minute, as if he could will Amara to reappear by concentration. When he finally went inside, the house felt like an abandoned stage. He washed one plate, then washed it again, because something needed cleansing and crockery was available. A knock came. Nanso arrived with a plastic bag of suya and shame. "Brother," he said softly, "I heard small rumor that you and Madam fought. I came to say 2 things, thank you and sorry." "For what?" Chike asked, dropping into a chair. "For the money you loaned me," Nanso said, eyes on the floor. For being part of the reason you two argued. He lifted his gaze. I know won't be just inside your marriage. I sold the spare generator, sent back something. I'll send the rest. I swear. Chike waved a hand. It wasn't the money. Not really. Nonso Saturday. If it wasn't the money, then what? Chike tried to answer and found that language sometimes fled the very places it was needed. I said something I cannot unsay. Then you must outsay it, Nonso replied. Louder, longer, with action. He hesitated. And that your office woman, what's her name? Kemi, reduce that thing. You day play with small fire near petrol. Chike stared. Nonso rarely moralized. Perhaps poverty refines wisdom. It's not like that, he said. Then heard his own voice and hated its defensiveness. But I've told her to keep it work only. Good, Nonso said, tearing a piece of suya and dropping it untouched. This world is waiting to clap. I told you so. Don't give them show. After Nonso left, Kemi's name lit his phone. Hope you ate. I'm praying peace over your mind tonight. He typed thanks, then deleted the word and let the cursor blink at him like a conscience. He put the phone face down and went to the balcony, where the tomatoes on the balcony had small yellow flowers the size of coins. He wondered how something so tender could exist in a city this loud. Amara's own support line chimed. Deo, traveling tomorrow for a choir workshop. Just checking, are you safe? She typed, safe. With my mother. A second bubble. Good. A wise refuge. She stared at the sentence, then put the phone away. She didn't want a refuge that wasn't her husband. By evening, sides were recruiting without formal invitations. Auntie Obianuju called Mama, her voice an anointing of trouble. Sister, you know pride is the seed of barrenness. Tell your daughter to go home and kneel. Mama hummed. Auntie, when I kneel to pray, I rise like a woman, not a doormat. She will go home, after they both learn the weight of their words. On Chike's side, the men's WhatsApp thread became a tribunal. One message at a time. Guy, don't beg. She'll think you're weak. Another, bego. Humility sweet for marriage. Someone posted a meme. A man kneeling with a bouquet the size of a small farm. The group laughed with too many emojis. Chike muted the chat. Pastor called both of them separately. To Amara, he said, I love you both. Come tomorrow by noon. Bring your anger, but also bring your listening ears. To Chike, he said, your words were arrows dipped in poison. You will pull them out with both hands. Pastor, Chike began. No sermon, Pastor cut gently. Just come. Before bed, Mama braided Amara's hair with soft fingers, the way she had done when Amara was a girl who believed all problems were arithmetic. Sleep, she whispered. And when morning comes, speak from your healed self, not your wounded one. Amara slept in fits and starts. Across town, Chike didn't sleep at all. By noon the next day, they would sit on a couch with a pastor between them like a bridge over a river that had started to rage. Before then, they had a night to survive, each with friends who meant well, some with petrol in their advice, others with water. In the end, both would need to choose their own bucket. Night in Lagos is not always dark. It is neon and generator glow and the soft blue of televisions being watched by people who cannot rest. Amara lay on Mama's narrow bed and counted the slow fan blades like rosary. Sleep flirted and fled. Her phone lay on the side table, a small rectangle of temptation. She wanted to scroll, to numb. Instead, she slid out of bed and padded to the small balcony. The courtyard was a patchwork of stories, a couple laughing softly, a man smoking and staring at nothing, a child murmuring in sleep. Amara opened her journal. The page caught the light of a distant security lamp. Words arrived like careful neighbors. I am angry, Lord. I am also afraid. She paused, then wrote, teach my tongue to stitch, not slice. She closed the book and let the pen rest. Mama stirred and joined her with a wrapper tied over her nightgown. Sleep is stubborn when the heart is loud, she said, leaning on the rail. Below them, a cat stroked itself against a bucket. I keep hearing the sentence, Amara whispered. It plays like a chorus. Mama nodded. Let's play a different song. And there, on the balcony, mother and daughter sang very softly, the old ones that have carried grief across centuries. Great is thy faithfulness. Amara's voice shook at first, then steadied. By the second verse, something unclenched between her ribs. Tomorrow, Mama said, you will ask for apology. You will give one too. You will ask for changes. You will offer some. If he refuses, we plan. If he accepts, we build. Either way, you will not be at the mercy of his sentence. You will be at the mercy of God. Amara nodded, soaking in the coolness of the hour. When she finally slept, she dreamed of the balcony, tomatoes, tiny green promises swelling quietly, ignorant of noise. Across the city, Chike walked from room to room like a security guard in his own life. He returned Amara's pillow to her side of the bed, then moved it because it made the emptiness too loud. He went to the nursery door and placed his palm on it, forehead on wood. I'm sorry, he whispered, not just to the air, but to the version of himself that had spoken with a voice that wasn't his. He made tea. He didn't drink it. He drafted 12 apologies on his phone, each worse than the last. I'm sorry, babe, felt teenage. I apologize for my hurtful remarks, sounded like a memo. He tried, I sinned with my mouth. He tried, I was cruel. He typed, I regret the sentence more than anything I have ever said. He didn't send any. Words felt like counterfeit until he could back them with behavior. At 2 a.m., he texted Pastor, I will do whatever it takes. The reply came after an unexpected minute. Good. Start by sleeping. Tomorrow requires strength. Chike almost laughed. He could wrestle with angels before he slept. At 3, the rain came. Not a storm, just a honest, rinsing rain. He stood on the balcony and let spray dust his face. His phone buzzed. Kemi, can't sleep? Me neither. Work brain. He typed night and turned the phone off. Another buzz would be a gate opening. He locked it. Elsewhere, Deo's plane crossed clouds toward Port Harcourt. He sent a final message before airplane mode, praying you both find soft words tomorrow. Amara saw it in the morning and typed a simple, Amen. Thank you. Then she archived the chat. Boundaries built slowly, one small brick at a time. When dawn unfolded, the city yawned. Chike showered and shaved like a man preparing for court. He put on the white shirt, crisp and honest. He hesitated at the cologne. Familiar scents can manipulate memory. He dabbed anyway, then took it easy with the spray. He looked at his reflection and did not like or recognize the man. It's a useful feeling, sometimes. The beginning of repentance is often disorientation. At Mama's, Amara dressed in a simple Ankara dress with green vines and small white blossoms. She tied her scarf low and tidy. Mama placed a hand on her cheek. Remember, she said, you are a woman of value with or without a child, with or without a husband. You are not going there to beg, to exist. You are going to negotiate how love will live hereafter. They took a Kiki to church, then a short walk down a lane that smelled of engine oil and cassava. In the tiny office, Pastor had arranged 3 chairs in a triangle and tea on a tray. Sit, he said, as if he were inviting them to something simple like air. They didn't speak at first. Silence did. Pastor waited, then opened a small notebook. We're going to do this in 3 movements: confession, understanding, plan. No shouting. If you shout, I will fine you with 10 sit-ups. I am serious. The rule was absurd enough to make both of them smile. The smiles stood like shy children behind doors. Confession, Pastor repeated. Each of you will say the sentence you most regret from the last month. Chike cleared his throat. I regret saying, I regret marrying you. The words trembled, but landed. It was wicked. It was a lie. I do not regret marrying you, Amara. I regret being a small man in a big moment. Amara swallowed. I regret saying you prefer telling someone else what you won't tell me. I regret hiding the hospital appointment. I regret letting another man's encouragement feel like an oxygen tank. Pastor nodded. Good. Now understanding. Why did we say those things? They spoke, not like lawyers, but like farmers describing weather. The heat of family pressure, the drought of the empty nursery, the false rain of attention from other places. When they finished, Pastor poured tea. Last, he said, plan. They both reached for the word at the same time. Boundaries, they said, then laughed, small, but together. It would not be easy, any of it. But it was a beginning carved out of a night without sleep. Here is what I need to stay, Amara said, voice steady. She had not rehearsed the sentence, but it arrived like a letter she had been writing for months. 1. No private emotional counseling with other people. Work messages are fine. But pep talks, safe spaces, late-night check-ins, we end them. 2. Money. No big transfers without both of us agreeing. 3. Family. If anyone insults me or calls me barren in your presence, you will correct them there and then, not later in the car. She paused. 4 words. If divorce or regret or should have married someone else enters our house again, I will pack my things and go to Mama's for a season. Not as a threat, as a protection. Chike sat very straight, as if his posture could register respect. I accept, he said, almost before she finished, then slowed himself. I accept all 4. And I have my own list. 1. No medical appointments in secret, ever. Even surprises must be shared. 2. Deo. He's not wrong to care, but there can be no private garden for compliments. 3. When my family misbehaves, and they will, allow me to fight for you, without also fighting me in the same moment. And 4. Let us find help. Counseling. Not just pastor. A professional, if we can afford it. Pastor nodded, like an approving metronome. Good. These are not ultimatums, he said. They are agreements. But, and here he raised a finger, agreements break without consequences. So what happens if you fail? Silence. Consequences are the thorns people try to prune away to make roses easier to hold. If I message Kemi anything personal again, Chike said, swallowing, I will sleep at Nonsos for a week. Not as punishment, as distance to prove I am serious. And I will delete the number. Today. If I entertain Deo's encouragement outside of work, Amara said, cheeks warm, I will also leave the house for a week. And I will tell you, before you find out. Pastor scribbled. And the families? If my mother or uncles insult her, Chike said, the visit ends. We stand up. We leave. No carry home stew. He took a breath. I will also call my mother today and make the law clear. With respect. With firmness. Amara's eyes filled. Thank you. Pastor leaned back. Now repair. Apologize to each other, not with paragraphs, with sentences you can keep. Chike turned to her. I am sorry for using your wound as a weapon. I will never speak like that again. Amara nodded. I am sorry for creating private places where comfort grew without you. I will not again. He held out his hand. She stared at it for a moment, then took it. Their fingers interlaced like old friends rediscovering a handshake. When they left the office, Lagos had decided to shine. The sky was a rinsed blue, as if the morning's arguments had been laundered and pegged on a line. They bought pure water from a hawker and shared a sachet like students after a long walk. Chike hailed a Kiki. In the wobbling cart, the wind made Amara's scarf flutter. It felt almost like courting again. At the flat, Amara paused in the doorway, looked around. The house smelled faintly of stew and apology. She set her bag down and exhaled. Let's call, Chike said, already pulling out his phone. My mother first. He put it on speaker. Mama Chike answered with cheerful suspicion. My son. And my daughter? Has she calmed down her city temper? Chike's jaw tightened. Mama, he said carefully. There will be no more comments like that. If anyone calls Amara barren or insults her in your house, we will stand up and leave. Immediately. Silence crackled. Then injury. So you called to threaten your mother? I called to honor my wife, Chike said, surprising himself with the steel in his voice. You taught me to protect what is mine. She is mine as I am hers. A pause. A sigh old and theatrical. Okay, Mama said lightly, which meant not okay at all. Come on Sunday. We will eat. We will talk. We'll confirm, he replied, not promising. When the call ended, he looked at Amara. That was something. She smiled a little stunned. It was everything. They sat, surrounded by the quiet choreography of returning. Amara opened windows. Chike emptied the small bag she'd taken to Mama's and placed each item back where it belonged, as if relocating objects could also relocate faith. In the afternoon, he deleted Kemi's number, then sent a final, honest text first. I respect you. I also love my wife. I won't be chatting outside work anymore. Please understand. He hit send, then block, a double action that felt like throwing a key into a lagoon. His chest ached and eased at once. Amara drafted a message to Deo. Thank you for your kindness. Going forward, let's keep our messages strictly about choir. She hovered, then added, please don't take this the wrong way. She sent it and archived the chat again, brick by brick. By evening, their lists were written on paper and taped inside a kitchen cabinet, not for guests, for themselves. They ate boiled yam and egg sauce at the counter, not touching much, not trusting themselves, like patients on soft food after surgery. Do we tell Ngozi and Chioma we're back together? Amara asked, unsure if back together was the right phrase for a 2-day separation, aware that sometimes labels are spells you cast until they stick. Tell them we're working, Chike said. Tell Chioma, I said thank you for wanting to carry you, but I have 2 hands. It was a joke and an apology and a claim. They laughed, a little, then fell quiet again. Repair is monotonous. Small kindnesses, repeated. Chike washed plates without being asked. Amara switched off the living room light without reminding him. He sent a transfer alert with the note. House budget, both passwords inside. She opened the file and found transparency where fog had been. At 9, Pastor texted, proud of you. Remember, ultimatums are not bombs. They are borders. Guard them with patience, not policing. Amara read it aloud. They both nodded. That night, when they reached for each other, it was tentative, like finding the rhythm of a song you used to know by heart. It wasn't fireworks. It was hands. It was breath. It was a decision. At midnight, the phone cut through the dark. Mama Chike again. Chike's stomach dipped. He answered. Mama. Her voice was tight. Your Uncle Emeka says I am losing my son to a woman's walla. He says to remind you we have traditions. He says, she broke off, then regrouped, voice turning flinty. Come on Sunday. We will do small prayers. There are herbs. Chike closed his eyes. Mama, we already spoke. Do not disgrace this family, she snapped, and the line went dead. He sat up, heart cold and hot. Amara touched his arm. What did she say? He told her, short and true. Amara stared at the ceiling. If Sunday becomes another tribunal, I won't sit there, she said, voice calm as a written rule. If they speak death over me, I will stand up and go. And if I don't follow immediately, he asked, testing the wire for weakness. She turned to him, eyes unwavering. Then I will know which family you chose. The sentence wasn't thrown like a weapon. It was placed gently on the table like a contract. An ultimatum, yes, but also a map. Chike nodded, throat tight. I will choose us. Then Sunday will prove it, she said, and switched off the bedside lamp. In the dark, Lagos exhaled, unbothered by private wars. The fan turned. The tomatoes on the balcony, indifferent to ultimatums and traditions, kept swelling in their green skins. Inside, 2 people lay very still, counting the days between now and the next test. The borders had been drawn. By the end of the week, they would learn who crossed them, and what walking out really meant. Sunday arrived smelling of starch and stew. Amara wrapped her scarf twice, then once again, as if fabric could armor a woman. Chike buttoned his white shirt with fingers that wanted to tremble. Between them, the kiki rattled down streets the color of old coins. They didn't speak much. They had already said what mattered. If they speak death over me, I will stand. If you do not stand with me, I will know. Mama's house was dressed for something it kept calling prayers. Aunties had swept until the tiles gleamed, then placed a bowl at the center table, water with leaves floating like suspicious blessings. And Uncle's friend in a white caftan muttered psalms under his breath as if bargaining with a stubborn sky. Welcome, Mama said, smiling tight. We are together, yes? We will end this matter today. Amara felt the eyes, weighed and labeled before sitting. She and Chike took the two-seater. Uncles Emeka and Damien sat opposite like a committee. Auntie Obianuju perched nearby, mouth already rehearsing commentaries. The man in white kaftan cleared his throat. "Marriage is sweet," he began, as if narrating a radio drama. "But sweetness can hide bitterness. We will cleanse the bitterness." He dipped fingers into the leaf water, sprinkled it in the air. A droplet landed on Amara's wrist and cooled nothing. "We will start with confession," Uncle Emeka said. "Daughter, tell us everything you have done that may have closed your womb." The sentence moved through the room like a rat. Amara breathed in. She unclasped her hands so she wouldn't break her own fingers. Chike sat forward. "No," he said. "Calm. Firm. We will not begin there." Uncle Damien frowned. "Young man, mind tone. Elders are speaking." "Then let the elders speak with sense," Chike replied, the steel in his voice surprising even him. "We will not accuse my wife in her own marriage. We came for prayers, not a trial." A murmur rose. Auntie clucked her tongue. "This is why the heavens are tight. Pride. The girl should kneel and ask mercy." "Enough," Chike said, turning to Amara with a gentleness that contradicted his jaw. "We will not kneel to shame." The kaftan man moved closer, cradling a small calabash. "There are herbs that open things," he intoned. "Madam, drink. Then step over this bowl. Spiritual blockages." "Stop," Amara said, shocking herself. Her voice was clear as glass. "I will not drink strange things. I will not step over bowls like a goat being weighed. If you love us, pray for us and bless us. If not, let us go in peace." Silence arrested the room. Then Mama recovered, voice soft, dangerous. "Amara, be careful. These are elders." "Elders can be wrong," Amara answered, respectful but unbent. "Mama, I honor you, but I will not be humiliated in the name of help." Uncle Emeka slapped the arm of his chair. "This is the woman's problem. See how her mouth runs like harmattan. A wife must submit." Chike stood. The movement was slow, deliberate, like a man placing a cornerstone. "If another insult leaves this room," he said, "we will leave before it finishes flying." Obianuju tutade. "So the boy is now bewitched by his wife's tears. In our day." "In your day," Chike cut in, "some of you suffered quietly and called it virtue. We are choosing truth. And borders." He turned to Mama. "We told you our terms. We repeat them with love." Mama's eyes were bright with injured authority. "You threaten me in my house?" "I protect my marriage in your house," he answered. The kaftan man tried again, holding out the calabash. "Drink, daughter." Amara's hand stayed at her sides. She looked at Chike. He looked at her. A question and an answer traveled between them without words. Amara rose. The room erupted. Chairs scraped, tongues clicked, a chorus of aha. "And sit down." And children of nowadays. But Chike's hand was already at her back, steadying. They walked to the door as if to fresh air. At the threshold, Mama's voice cracked. "Chike, if you cross that door, remember whose son you are." He turned, pain honest on his face. "Yours," he said. "And hers." He nodded toward Amara. "This is not disloyalty. It is the kind of loyalty that keeps a man standing when the wind shifts." Uncle Damien barked a laugh, without humor. "Go then. Go and worship your wife. When your line ends, we will see who you run to." Chike swallowed. "We run to God," he said simply, and stepped out. The compound's light hit like mercy. Outside, a hawker pushed pure water sachets with the persistence of hope. Chike bought two. They stood by the gate and drank like travelers. In the kiki back home, Amara's hands shook. Not regret. Relief's cousin. "They will say I took you from them," she whispered. "They will say many things," he replied. "Let them. Today I chose our roof over their gossip. Tomorrow I will choose it again." At their door, Amara paused. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for standing first," he answered. Inside, the house received them without judgment. Chike pulled the paper list from the cabinet and tapped the line they had written. "If dishonor arises, we leave." He put the paper down and exhaled. The phones lit like small fires, missed calls, messages heavy with "how dare you" and "you have changed." Pastor's text arrived like rain after ash. "Proud of your courage. Keep your words clean tonight." No victory shouts, only gratitude. They obeyed. They didn't gloat. They ate quietly and washed plates side by side. Later, they sat on the balcony as evening softened the edges of buildings. The tomatoes wore a deeper green. Somewhere a baby laughed, its giggle ricocheting off the compound walls. Amara rested her head on Chike's shoulder. "I am scared," she said. "Me too," he admitted. "But I am also steadier than last week." They didn't touch the nursery door. They didn't talk about doctors. They talked only of small things: the neighbor's new cat, the way the wind teased the curtains, the joke Pastor had told about sit-ups and shouting. They let the day fold itself. Before sleep, Amara opened her journal and wrote one line. "Today we walked out. Tomorrow we will walk on." Silence can be a weapon. It can also be a shelter. All week, they learned both. Mama didn't call for 2 days. When she did, it was a collection of sighs stitched together with warnings. Uncles populated the family chat with proverbs about rivers that forget their source. Auntie Obinuju sent voice notes about the abominations of modern wives. Each message a sermon, each sermon lacking a savior. Amara muted the thread. Chike typed and deleted 4 replies, then sent one. "We love you. We will not return to humiliation. If you want to pray, pray with us, not at us." Scene. No reply. The clinic called on Wednesday. Amara put the phone on speaker, and they listened as the nurse's voice arranged their lives into data. Results within normal ranges. A recommendation to consider time cycles. Talk of interventions with acronyms that lived at the intersection of hope and bank balances. "There is no single cause we can identify," the nurse concluded gently. Sometimes, waiting itself is the answer. After the call, they sat on the couch with the way forward puddled between them. "Do we try the what did she call it?" Amara asked. "IUI," Chike said. "Costs money we don't have yet." "We could save," she offered. "We could," he agreed. "We could also breathe." Breathing became a ritual. Mornings, they watered balcony plants and said nothing grander than good morning to their grief. Evenings, they walked to the junction and back, counting the same 7 potholes like liturgy. On Thursday, Kosi's mother knocked, baby on hip, apology in her eyes. "Please help me watch him for 1 hour. Shop emergency." Amara wanted to say no, not because she didn't love the boy, but because love was a knife and she was still raw. She said yes anyway. Kosi careened through the living room, a tornado in small shorts. He tugged at the mobile in the nursery doorway. Amara gently redirected him to the balcony tomatoes. "See," she said, "we're growing food." "We're growing ball," he corrected, and she laughed despite herself. When he slept, cheek damp on her lap, Amara traced the geography of his tiny palm and found she wasn't breaking. She was aching. There's a difference. Ache can be endured. Breaking must be mended. Chike watched them from the doorway. Amara with a child on her lap and Peace trying a trial run on her face. He took a photo in his head and stored it where jealousy could not touch it. That night, they talked about adoption, not as a consolation prize, but as a path. They spoke carefully, the way you approach a shy animal. "I want a mother," Amara said. "Not just a body that came from mine. A soul." Chike nodded. "I want a father whomever God brings through our door." He exhaled. "But I also know we need to heal enough to choose from fullness, not panic." "Then let's learn," she said. "Ask questions. Save. Pray. No announcements." They drew a small savings plan on a scrap of paper and stuck it beside the grocery list with a ridiculous magnet shaped like a pineapple. They promised not to make the plan into a god. The neighbor's whispers resumed, softer now, curious rather than cruel. The compound gossip machine had moved on to someone's son who crashed a car. Relief is sometimes borrowed. On Friday, Chike took the long route home and found himself at the lagoon, water the color of complicated thoughts. He stood by the railing and allowed sadness to sit beside him without demanding conversation. A man selling puff-puff offered him one free. You day think too much, the man said, not unkindly. Sugar will reset. Chike ate warm air and fried dough and smiled at the audacity of small kindness. Back home, Amara sat cross-legged on the rug, watching a video about herbs, basil, rosemary, mint, in balcony buckets. The woman on screen laughed about killing her first 3 basil plants by loving them too hard. Plants want consistency, the woman said. Not drama. Same, Amara murmured and wrote basil on a sticky note. They made love that night with the hesitance of people who had been careful too long. It wasn't fireworks. But when Amara fell asleep, her mouth relaxed into the shape of a girl she once was. Chike lay awake and did not feel dread like a stone in the bed. Silence, that week, was a roof they repaired quietly, side by side. On Saturday afternoon, Pastor visited with his wife, Mama T. She brought plantain chips and a hug that smelled like she had never been in a hurry. They drank Zobo and said only necessary things. Anger, Mama T said, is like kerosene. In small capfuls, it starts a cooking fire. In a bucket, it burns the house. She squeezed Amara's hand. Use capfuls. When they left, the house felt bigger for having been seen without being poked. That night, a message blinked from Mama Chike. Come tomorrow and let us talk differently. Not an apology. Not yet. But a lowering of spears. What do you think? Amara asked. We go, Chike said. We leave at the first sign of old games. Deal, she said, and for the first time in days, she let herself imagine something that wasn't an empty cradle or a hostile living room. She imagined tomatoes reddening. She imagined basil surviving. She imagined, simply, another good day. Sunday wore a quieter dress. No bowls. No Captain Man. Mama had removed the center table entirely, as if furniture could hold grudges. The house smelled of okra and humility. She met them at the door, eyes rimmed red in a way pride hates to admit. My children, she said, voice smaller, sit. They did. For a moment, no one knew what to do with hands. Then Mama exhaled. I was wrong, she said, picking the thread out of the knot. I let fear speak like wisdom. I let people who do not sleep in your house arrange your bed. It wasn't quite an apology yet, but it was facing the right direction. Chike leaned forward. Mama. She raised a palm gently. Let me finish before courage escapes. Her mouth trembled. When I married your father, I lost 2 pregnancies before you came. The women said many things. Some called me cursed. Some gave me water with leaves and insisted it was faith. I drank and vomited and still bled. The 3rd time, I told them to leave me with my God. Then you arrived screaming like a prophet. She smiled in spite of herself. I forgot the shame. Until now. Seeing you wait brought all the old ghosts. I fought them the only way I knew, noise. The room adjusted itself around a new truth. Amara's spine loosened, compassion arriving even as old hurts perched on the armrest. Mama, she said softly, thank you for telling us. Mama wiped her eye with the corner of her wrapper. I wanted to control what I cannot control. I wanted shortcuts. But God is not a street vendor. She looked at Amara. Daughter, I am sorry for every name I did not stop them from calling you. I am sorry for the leaves and the bowls and the kneel and confess. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a woman I beg God to give my son. Silence was not a weapon in that room. It was a warm shawl. Chike's shoulders fell, tension releasing like a held breath. Thank you, Mama. Uncle Emeka was not present. Auntie Obianuju had been told to rest. Only cousin Chidinma hovered in the doorway, eyes soft, carrying bottled water like truce. Mama continued, words careful. I cannot promise that my brothers will instantly grow sense. But in this house, if anyone speaks insult, I will close the door on their sentence. She straightened, a general rediscovering her command. We will pray now, not with performance, with truth. They stood. Mama took their hands. Amara surprised herself by not flinching. Mama's palm was warm, a map lined with roads she had walked. Father, she said, voice mixing strength and surrender, You gave me this son. You gave me this daughter. I have damaged with my fear. Heal with your kindness. Give us patience. Give us joy. Give us wisdom for doctors and relatives and our own mouths. If you give children, we will dance. If you don't yet, we will dance anyway. Let love be the child that grows quickly in this house. She squeezed their hands, then lifted them together. A human arch, I bless this home, she whispered, and for the first time, the word didn't feel like control. It felt like release. After amen, conversation did not rush to fill the space. They sat and ate okra soup, talking about craning necks of city cranes, about Chidinma's tailoring course, about the balcony tomatoes that Mama insisted on seeing a photo of. Send me, she pleaded, laughing, and Amara found herself laughing too. Only once did the old river try to divert the conversation. Mama started, "There's a woman in Enugu who," then stopped mid-sentence and shook her head. "No. I said I will stop bringing boats of strangers into your living room." "Thank you," Chike said, smiling in relief, so naked it made them all smile. When it was time to go, Mama walked them to the door and did something she hadn't done since their wedding. She placed both hands on their heads. "May your roof not leak," she said in simple Yoruba, the blessing of practical mothers. "And if it leaks, may your hands be strong and your laughter quick." On the way home, the city looked less like a jury. Clouds piled like folded clothes. Amara held her phone loosely, fingers not itching to seek validation. A message pinged from Nonso. "Heard Mama called meeting. She is trying." A second later, another. "Proud of you too." It was the word that had started a fight the week before. Today, it landed different, planted rather than thrown. At home, they opened windows to invite the clean afternoon in. Amara stood at the nursery door with the reverence of a museum visitor. "Can we go in together?" she asked. They hadn't stepped inside since the big fight. Chike nodded. They entered. The cradle stood, not as accusation, but as furniture waiting for purpose. Amara touched the mobile gently. Stars turned, slower than memory. "Let's change this room," she said suddenly. "Not erase it, repurpose it. A room for children, whoever they are, whenever they come. Our children, community children. Kosi when his mother needs to breathe. Books, drums, a beanbag, a drawer left empty just in case." Chike grinned, a boy discovering a tree he could climb, and a shelf for basil that didn't die. She laughed, especially that. They made a list that looked a lot like hope: repaint light not sad, mats, low shelves, washable everything. They took measurements no one had asked them for. They argued cheerfully about paint names. They turned Greece room into a workshop. By evening, the balcony glowed with the soft pride of plants that had not given up on themselves. Amara watered. Chike held the phone torch when dusk tried to be clever. The first tomato blushed, just a thumbprint of red, but there and undeniable. "Look," Amara whispered, as if they might frighten it back to green. Chike leaned in, hand on her back. "Proof," he said. "Of what?" "That waiting is not the same as wasting," he replied. They slept that night without the fan of anxiety whirring in their chests. At 3 a.m., Amara woke to the gentle absence of dread. She lay there and prayed without asking for anything, just thanking, a discipline harder than fasting. In the other bed half, Chike turned and murmured her name like a child finding his blanket. Morning would bring new proverbs from someone's uncle, bills that wanted paying, choices about medicine and savings and furniture paint. Not all days would be soft, but an elder had laid down her weapons and picked up a blessing. A door had opened that wasn't made of wood. In the kitchen, their agreement list still hung inside the cabinet, ink unblurred. It would be tested again. It would also carry them, line by line, across whatever bridges remained. On the balcony, the tomatoes leaned toward a sun they could not yet see. Inside, 2 people did the same. Absolutely. Here are chapters 18 to 20 of Cracks in a Childless Paradise, each 1000 words, closing the arc with reunion, a different kind of miracle, and a steady, hopeful end. They didn't plan a grand reconciliation. They planned breakfast. Saturday arrived clean and ordinary. Sun on the curtain hem, the slow fan, the smell of onions softening in oil. Chike slid slices of yam into the pan. Amara whisked eggs with a patience she didn't have last month. The silence between them was no longer a battlefield or a wound. It was a table setting. It waited to be filled. "Tea?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "2 cubes. I'll repent later." He smiled and didn't push the repentance joke further. They had agreed. No sermons disguised as humor. He poured, she tasted, and something quiet inside both of them nodded. The agreement list still lived inside the cabinet. They were living it without pointing. "After breakfast," he said, "come with me somewhere." "Where?" "You'll see," he said, and for once a man's mystery wasn't a threat. It was a gift-wrapped hour. They took a kiki, then a bus, then walked. Lagos muttered its usual soundtrack: horns, hawkers, praise songs from a shop somewhere. He led her to a small park where the grass tried very hard to be a lawn. Children traced wobbly circles on rented bicycles. In the center stood a gazebo with shade generous enough for 2 people and a history. "We had our pre-wedding photos here," Chike said, surprising her. "Remember? You wore that pink dress you swore was coral." "It was coral," she said, laughing, and they stepped into the gazebo together like stepping back into a page. On the bench sat a small box wrapped in brown paper and twine. Inside, their wedding vows, printed and threaded with ribbon, the ink slightly faded from a life well handled. He had found them at the bottom of a drawer, under old manuals and forgotten guarantees. "Can we read them again?" he asked. "Not as theater. As repair." Amara swallowed. "Yes." They took turns, the way they had years ago, but slower. His voice caught on a promise he had not kept consistently, to protect your name with my mouth. And he said, "I failed there," without flinching away from the word. Her voice trembled at to share every weight in the open. She looked at him and said, "I failed there," and didn't drown in shame. They paused after each vow and translated it into a plan. His, to cut off old pipelines of relief that were not her. Hers, to keep the doors of her fear open to him first. They added new vows in simple language. "I will not weaponize silence. I will give warnings before ultimatums. We will choose small joys on purpose." When they finished, Amara reached into her bag. "I have something too," she said, and pulled out a tiny, battered notebook, her prayer journal. "After the worst night, I wrote this. It is messy." She found the page and read softly. "Teach my tongue to stitch, not slice. Teach my feet to stand with him when wind shouts. Teach my hands to open, not fist." She handed him the book. "Hold me to it. Gently." He nodded, throat tight. "Hold me too." They sat a while, watching a little boy pedal with a concentration so serious it was comic. A girl with a lopsided ponytail rang a bell as if summoning kindness. The world had not changed. They had only chosen to see the parts that could fuel them, not star them. On the way out, they passed a couple taking photos under a jacaranda tree, their laughter doing cartwheels. "We were loud like that," Amara said. "We can be again," Chike replied, and immediately shook his head. "No, not the same. Something else. Quieter. Stronger." He took her hand. Less sugar, more grain. Back home, the repurposing of the nursery began in earnest. They moved the cradle to one side, not discarded, not centered. They rolled paint onto walls, soft warm white, covering handprints of despair. Chike assembled low shelves. Amara labeled plastic bins in block letters. Drums. Books. Blocks. Craft. She placed a woven mat wide enough for sprawled-out reading and naps that sneak up. They hung the mobile of stars above a new beanbag. "So it turns above imagination," Amara said, and felt the sentence land right. At dusk, they hosted a tiny dedication of the room. That wasn't a nursery anymore. Pastor dropped by for 15 minutes, offered a prayer that blessed both what was and what could come without forcing either. Mama T put a hand on each of their shoulders and said nothing, just warmth. Nonso brought bottled drinks and stacked them in the corner with an energy of atoning. Mama sent a voice note too shy to be a call. "I bless the room that will hear many laughter." Auntie Obianuju sent nothing, and it was a relief. After everyone left, they sat on the rug and named the room out loud. Playroom, Chike tried. Joy room, Amara said, testing the words on her tongue. Welcome room, he offered. They settled on none. Sometimes names arrive while a thing is being lived. That night, reunion was not fireworks. It was this: a husband washing rollers, humming under his breath, a wife wiping paint from the skirting with a corner of her wrapper, 2 toothbrushes in a cup, 2 phones asleep, no late-night messages from anyone outside the circle. In bed, they held each other without explaining anything to anyone. That too was a vow. On Sunday, they went to church early. Amara taught the children a new chorus with hand motions simple enough for toddlers, sturdy enough to survive adult sorrow. Chike helped the media team fix a cable no one had bothered to identify since Christmas. They looked across the hall through the moving bodies and caught each other's eyes. They did not need to smile like adverts. A slight nod did the work. Later, Deo returned from his workshop and greeted Amara with professional warmth. No extra words tucked into the handshake. Kemi passed Chike at the office on Monday and kept it strictly project timelines. Relief came without bitterness. Boundaries were not cages. They were fences around a garden being tendered. That evening, they wrote 3 things they wanted to do together that had nothing to do with making a baby. Learn to bake bread, volunteer once a month at the orphanage 2 bus stops away, take photos of markets on Saturday mornings, and turn them into a wall collage. Their marriage needed muscles in places not previously trained. Before sleep, they reread 2 of the old vows, then the new ones, not as magic, but as map. On the balcony, a tomato, now fully red, glowed where leaves had hidden it. In the quiet, they plucked it together, split it, and ate, warm, tart, sweet, honest. Reunion, Amara said, licking juice from her thumb. Reunion, Chike echoed. And this time the word meant returning not to old innocence, but to a new courage. The miracle did not arrive in a test strip. It arrived as a pamphlet. On a Wednesday afternoon, after choir practice, Sister Ruth pressed a leaflet into Amara's hand. Community Foster and Mentorship Information Session, Saturday, 10 a.m. Come, ask, learn. No promises, no glossy photographs of instant happy families, just a hall, chairs, and questions aloud. Amara took it home and set it on the counter. She didn't hide it. Their cabinet agreements had made honesty a habit, not a performance. Chike read it while he waited for rice to steam. Do we go? He asked. We can sit at the back, she said. We can stand at the door and run away if anyone starts with speeches that smell like deceit. He laughed. Deal. Saturday found them in a modest hall behind a government building, its paint flaking like the memories of administrations. The facilitator, a woman with kind eyes and sensible shoes, began without fanfare. Fostering and adoption are not charity, she said. They are not rescue fantasies. They are joining. Joining comes with joy and paperwork and patience and sometimes pain. We will tell you the truth so you don't break a child with your unexamined longing. The room exhaled a collective thank you and ouch. They learned words they hadn't needed before: home study, placement, kinship care, training hours. They took notes without committing to anything yet. Couples asked hard questions. Single people asked brave ones. An older woman in a purple wrapper raised her hand and said, I have room in my house and noise in my heart. I want to make the room louder with love. People clapped, not like a performance, but like a chorus that knew the tune. During the break, a boy of about 8 wandered to the snack table and counted biscuits with a seriousness Chike recognized from the mirror. 2 for now, 2 later, the boy said to no one, and wrapped them carefully in tissue. He caught Chike watching and grinned with his entire face. What's your name? Chike asked. Femi, he said, thriving in the act of being asked. What's yours? Chike. Okay, Mr. Chike, Femi said, and it rhymed with confidence. If you take 2 biscuits now and 2 later, you won't cry when later comes. He trotted off, a philosophy professor with crumbs. On the ride home, they didn't rush to decision. They sat with their new vocabulary like a bag of seeds. We can start the training, Amara said, even if we don't know how the story ends. Yes, Chike said. We can become the kind of people who are ready. They told Pastor and Mama. Both approved with caution and hope. Mama asked practical questions about visits and traditions. Chike answered with practical answers and new boundaries. The uncles were not told. Some news should not be given to people who think prophecy is a weapon. Training began. Saturday mornings in a room that smelled like plastic chairs and resolve. They role-played bedtime with hypothetical children who had known too much leaving. They learned the difference between privacy and secrecy. They wrote down their own triggers, crowds for him, sudden change for her, so they could name them before they became invisible bulls in delicate rooms. At home, they reworked the knot nursery again with what they learned. A lockbox for medicines. Night light options that didn't turn the room into a hospital. Books that told the truth without making sadness the main character. They practiced welcoming sentences out loud. Welcome home. You are safe here. We will learn each other. Meanwhile, the ordinary miracles multiplied. Kosi's mother fell ill for 3 days. They kept Kosi, fed him, folded him into bedtime, learned that he preferred his water with 3 ice and 1 lemon, because once at a party someone gave him that, and he thought it was the exact recipe for love. He spilled Zobo on the mat and cried like he had destroyed a cathedral. Amara sat on the floor with him and blotted the stain into a story. This spot will remind us of the day you conquered Zobo, she said, and he laughed, hiccuping. At church, the children's choir grew in confidence. One Sunday, Deo stepped back from the mic and let Amara lead an oldham. She lifted her voice, not like a soloist proving something, but like a river remembering its route. Chike watched from the media booth and felt the kind of pride that doesn't need to send a text to hold. Nonso paid back the last of the loan with interest he insisted upon. To cancel bad gist, he said. They took him to Mama's the following weekend, and the 3 of them sat with plantain chips and soccer commentary. The family chat mercifully quiet for an entire afternoon. At work, Chike got through a quarter without the high of forbidden attention. His supervisor noticed the steadiness that comes when a man's eyes are not darting between screens and escape routes. You've leveled, she said. I don't know what changed. Keep it. He nodded and didn't offer a testimony. Some growth blooms best without clapping. A month after the information session, an email arrived. Home study scheduled. Please confirm 2 possible dates. They stared at the screen the way people stare at a horizon they have drawn on a map for years and now see with their eyes. Are we ready? Amara whispered. No, Chike said. Yes. They wrote back with 2 dates, then taped another paper beside the grocery list. Documents. Fire extinguisher check. Extra toothbrushes. A note to ourselves. Keep expectations kind. The night before the home study, they didn't scrub the house into a museum. They wiped, swept, and left the Zobo stain on the mat on purpose. We have lived here, Amara said. Let it show. They slept like students who have studied enough to rest. In the morning, the social worker arrived with a smile that didn't lie. She asked real questions. How do you fight? Where do you go when you are angry? Whose voice will this child hear most at first? And is that voice safe? They answered honestly, with small stories instead of slogans. The social worker walked through the knot nursery and nodded at the bins. I like rooms that can become what a child needs, she said, and Amara's shoulders dropped in a way she hadn't known they were raised. After she left, relief came, not the kind that empties, but the kind that fills. They didn't post a thing. They ate boiled corn on the balcony and watched the tomatoes retire for the season like champions. That evening, on a whim, they stopped by the orphanage 2 bus stops away with donations of books and mats. Children swarmed them like weather. A girl with tightly beaded hair clung to Amara's wrapper and would not let go. The matron laughed. Her name is Adiz, she said. She tests every new person to see who will stand. Amara stood, hip aching, heart steady, until Adiz decided the test was complete and ran off to conquer something else. On their way out, a boy ran to Chike and pressed something into his hand, a folded paper, warm from pocket. I drew your tomatoes, the boy said shy. Inside, a wobbly red circle under a green hat. It was perfect. At home, they pinned the drawing to the kitchen wall with tape that might peel paint later. Miracle, Chike said. Which one? Amara asked, smiling. All of it, he replied. Not the thing that erases waiting. The things that dignify it. The call did not bring a child. It brought a date. Your home study is approved, the social worker said. Next month, we'll invite you to the matching panel. She said other careful things about timelines and patience, and the dignity of everyone involved. Amara wrote them down and underlined dignity twice. When she hung up, she didn't cry. She breathed like a person who had walked a long road and found a sign that spelled the place correctly. They didn't celebrate with fireworks. They celebrated with jollof rice and neighbors. Kosi's mother brought coleslaw that tasted like a party had learned restraint. Nonso arrived with crates. He swore he carried himself. Mama came with an apron in her bag and an apology already practiced in her mouth. She used both. Pastor and Mama T dropped in, ate small portions, left big warmth. Even cousin Chidinma came, shy with a gift, 2 tiny aprons. For future cooking assistance, she said, blushing. They hung them on the back of a chair and let them be prophecy without pressure. At the table, they played a game. Tell one story about a crack that didn't break you. People obliged. Kosi's mother told of the night the marble flew out because someone knew what to do. Nonso told of the time he almost closed the shop and didn't. Mama told, for the first time in public, of the 2 pregnancies that ended and the son who arrived with a voice too big for the room. Laughter and tears weren't opposites that day. They sat together and shared a plate. Later, when the house exhaled and chairs stacked themselves like contented animals, Amara and Chaik walked into the knot nursery and sat on the mat, side by side. The room smelled of soap and crayons and the faint ghost of stew. The list of bins waited for small hands. The beanbag had learned 3 different ways to sag. Do you ever fear? Amara asked, eyes on the mobile, stars turning lazy circles. Daily, Chaik said. I fear being found insufficient. I fear not being chosen, she confessed. By a child. By life. By God. He took her hand. You were chosen. By me. Again and again. And by God the day he refused to let our hearts calcify. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Do you miss who we were before all this? Sometimes, he said. They were lighter. But they would not survive a wind like this. We are heavier now. In the good way. He paused. Do you? I miss not knowing certain words, she said. But I don't miss the soft parts that hadn't met their purpose. They sat with that. In the weeks that followed, nothing miraculous happened in the way stories are often held hostage to. Bills arrived respectfully and were paid on the last day. The balcony tomatoes retired. Basil finally lived beyond 3 weeks. The church children nailed their harmonies and forgot their lines. The congregation loved them more for the forgetting. Chaik's office won the client contract. His name wasn't on the press release, but he slept well anyway. Amara organized the church storeroom until order itself said thank you. The family chat learned a new language, less proverb, more picture of grandchildren not used as weapons. Uncle still tried to insert old gods. Mama, true to her vow, shut doors. Auntie Obinuju sent a message, short, out of character. If you need me to sew curtains for the room, send measurements. Amara sent them. The curtains arrived quietly a week later, hemmed straight as a confession. One evening, as Harmattan rehearsed at the edges of the air, they took a walk and found the park where the vows had been reheard. The jacaranda had shed small purple messes on the path. A couple was taking pre-wedding photos, pink dress, choral argument. The photographer shouted instructions that sounded like benedictions. Closer. Closer. Laugh like you mean it. Amara squeezed Chaik's hand. We have earned our laughter. We are still earning it, he corrected gently. And she loved him for the grammar. At home, a letter waited in the mailbox, matching panel date. 2 Saturdays from today. Please bring documents listed on the reverse. The list was practical to the point of comedy. Utility bills, photographs of home, proof of fire extinguisher references. They laid everything on the table, like ingredients. Do we bring the Zobo-stained mat? Chaik asked deadpan. Amara laughed. We bring the story. That night, they hosted themselves. 2 candles. 1 tomato cut, basil torn with fingers, bread baked from a YouTube tutorial that required more faith than yeast. They ate and told truths. I was tempted to hide again this week when the social worker asked about our worst fight. I was tempted to dress up our story for the panel. They agreed to be the kind of people who do not seduce approval with performance. Before sleep, they stood at the balcony and prayed. It was not elegant. It was not lengthy. It was a rope tossed across water. Keep us. Keep whoever is coming. Keep the ones who will not come. Keep our yes steady. Amen. Morning brought errands. They replaced the batteries in the smoke alarm, bought a second toothbrush holder, chose a small stuffed tortoise at the market because patience should have a mascot. They wrote a sentence on the back of the tortoise's tag in tidy script. We go slow, we arrive true. On the day of the panel, they dress plain. No performative matching. Chike's white shirt ironed. Amara's ankara with green vines and small white blossoms, the outfit from the counseling day. This time worn with less armor and more memory. They carried a folder with documents and a pocket with peace. The panel did not feel like a jury. It felt like a circle of tired, competent people trying to put children and adults in rooms where doors would stay open. They answered questions about money, discipline, family, and what they would do when love felt like a task. They confessed that they had hurt one another and built better sentences since. They did not promise to be unbreakable. They promised to repair. When they left, there was no trumpet. The social worker said, "We will be in touch," and meant it. Outside, they bought Puff Puff from a man who recognized Chike and said, "Two now, two later." And they laughed until the city felt like a cousin. Back on the balcony, the basil nodded like it agreed with something. The sun slid lower, throwing long rectangles on the floor. Inside the knot nursery, the curtains Auntie sewed moved in a breeze that smelled of dust and beginnings. Cracks, Amara said, looking around their home. Plenty, Chike answered. But still standing, she finished. He took her hand and pressed it to the place his vows lived now, not only in his mouth, but also in his daily, unphotographed habits. She placed her palm over his and felt not fireworks, but a weight she could depend on. They went inside. The mobile of stars turned above the beanbag, lazy, sure. Somewhere in the compound, a baby cried and was comforted. Somewhere else, a child watched a door and waited. On the kitchen wall, the drawing of the tomato hung with its green hat. Underneath it, taped in new handwriting, a note from the social worker's visit. Your house feels like a place where a child could exhale. That was the miracle they had received, the one they had made. Not the erasure of longing, but the building of a life sturdy enough to hold it. Not a paradise without cracks, but a roof that kept the rain from ruining the table. Tomorrow would carry its own weather. Tonight, two people lay down in a home they had learned to defend and repair. Above them, the fan turned, a steady, faithful thing, and the stars on the mobile counted time in gentle circles. Love the story? Don't just watch, like, subscribe, and be part of the AFROPULSE family. Your support keeps the tales alive. See you in the next one.